Welcome. The purpose of this video is to review the Service Console with you. Service Console is where you'll be able to see who is expected in the clinics today, which patients have arrived, which are waiting, and what step in the immunization process they are in. Depending on your role and how your clinic is going to be using the system, some of you may spend the majority of your time in the Service Console. In order to access the correct information for your clinic, you will need to change some of the settings in the user panel. On the far left-hand side, navigate to the user panel. The center section, My Properties, is where you need to adjust your settings. Current unit needs to be set to the clinic where you're going to be working. Click on the drop-down. You may need to use the plus sign beside the different areas to navigate to find the clinic you're going to be working in. You do need to ensure that you have selected a clinic and not the top area. Otherwise, you will not have a location and a function when you set those. I'm going to go ahead and choose a training clinic. When I click on the drop-down, I have two options for location. A current unit is the clinic. Location is where you are working in the clinic that day. There is no difference between the access between the two locations. They are in here just to give you an example of the locations in the system. If you're going to be checking patients in and checking patients out, you can choose reception. If you are an immunizer, you can go ahead and select position 1. But again, there is no difference between the access of the two locations. Click on the drop-down in Function, then select Local Agent. At this time, we have only created the one function in the system, and everybody has the same access. The Service Console requires both the location and the function in order to work. Once you have all of your settings the way you need them, go ahead and click on Update. This will save those settings so that when you log in the next time, they will automatically apply. Now we want to navigate to the Service Console. Click on Tools, Service Console. On the far left-hand side, you're going to see a drop-down that says Local Agent. As I mentioned, right now we only have the one function, but if they do expand this and include more functions, you can change that function right within the Service Console. Beside that, you have the reception. When you click on the drop-down, that is your location. Depending on the location you set in the user panel will be what location shows up. It can be changed right within the Service Console. The difference being, if they're changed in the Service Console, it will not save that change for the next login. Beside that, you have Find Cases. On the Service Console, a case is the ticket number. Down in the Appointments section, if an appointment or if the patient has arrived, they will have a V number beside the appointment time. That is the ticket number or the case number that you would search in the Find Cases. If they have a 0 beside the appointment time, that indicates that they have not arrived yet. Below that, you'll find a link to the calendar. You can easily switch between your Service Console and the calendar. On the far right, you're going to see services in current unit. You will have a list of the services that are available. You will have a list of how many patients are waiting in each of those services, and you will have a wait time listed. This will be the wait time of the person that has been in that service the longest. On the far left-hand side, you will see a Next button. Next will close the case you are working on. If you have a case assigned to you, it will close it and automatically assign the next waiting person to your My Cases. Close will close the ticket you're working on and bring you back to the case list where you can manually assign the next person waiting the longest to you. Below that, you will have your username along with the status. If you are not seeing a patient at this time, your status will be set to idle. If you have a case assigned to you, your status will be in service. Below that, we have 3 different tabs. Case List will give you a list of the appointments that are expected today based on the filters of the drop-downs you have set below. We'll talk about those in just a minute. You have a My Cases tab, which will show if you have any cases currently assigned to you. If your status is in idle and you do not have a case assigned to you, you will also see a Back Office tab. This is not being used at this time, but in the future could be used to track administrative duties. Click back on Case List. The reason this is called the Service Console is we are managing services. A service is a touch point for the patient as they go through the clinic. Our first touch point or service for the patient is going to be the calendar. Not this calendar, the calendar service. The calendar service will pull the patients expected from the calendar and feeds that into the service console so that we can work with those appointments. The next service we have is screened and checked in. This would be the second touch point for the patient, and as the title describes, the patient has passed facility screening and is now checked in and ready to be immunized. The last service we have is the clear to go and check out. This would indicate that the patient has been immunized and they are awaiting their required 15 minutes before they leave the clinic. In the future, more services will be added in. This will give you a great introduction on how the functionality works. The drop-down filters will filter the cases that you are seeing based on the different selections. If you want to see all the services in your clinic with all the patients expected in each of those services, you can leave your view set to grouped by service. If you are in a large clinic, you may want to switch your view to a single service so that you can focus on the patients you'll be responsible for helping. For example, if I am set to reception, I would be focused on the patients that are expected from the calendar. Whereas if I am position 1, that would indicate that I am an immunizer and I would be concerned with patients in the screened and checked in. If I'm managing the recovery area, I may want to see just the clear to go and check out. For training purposes, I'm going to leave it on group by service so you can see the flow through the clinic. The last filter we have filters out the appointments you're seeing based on the status of the appointment. For example, you can switch from active waiting. Both of those are actually the same in the system. You also have absent, served by me, waiting and expected, expected back, assigned to me, and waiting for patient action. Depending on what your role and which service you're going to be managing will be dependent on what filter you want to set. I'm going to set mine to waiting and expected so we can see all the appointments that we're expecting today. Now let's look at the appointments. You can tell the status of an appointment based on the happy face and the color. For example, if I hover over top of the appointment, you can see this one is expected. The happy face is black. Whereas if I hover over the blue happy face, you can see the status is waiting. Beside the status happy face is the appointment time. Beside that, if it is an expected appointment, you will just see the number 0. If the patient has arrived, you will see a V number indicating their ticket number. Beside that, you have the patient's name. On the far right-hand side, you have an icon that shows you View. You can click on View and review an appointment without assigning it to yourself. Notice there is nothing in the My Cases. This is just allowing me to view the appointment information. Click on Close this tab and it will take me back to Case List. Above View, you have Next in Service, and you also have Direct Admit. Bringing a patient through the clinic. The first step is the patient arrives at the clinic and notifies reception that they are there. They will need to mark the patient as arrived. The system refers to that as NQ. Click on the appointment time and click on NQ. The appointment went from the black expected happy face to the blue waiting happy face. And now that patient has a ticket number. Let's go ahead and work with that ticket. To do that, we can either call the ticket or you can use Next in Service. To call the ticket, you can click on the ticket and click Call from the shortcut menu. Or you can use the call icon on the far right-hand side. If you want to use Next in Service, that will automatically assign the ticket or the patient that's been waiting the longest to your cases. I'm going to click on Next in Service. Now we have the ticket assigned in our My Cases. At the top of the ticket, you have some options. You can return the ticket to the queue if you called it by mistake or you weren't ready to deal with the patient. You can mark a ticket as absent. You can click on Hold. However, we do caution you, if you are the one that puts a ticket on hold, you are the only one that can remove the hold. Meaning, if you've placed a ticket on hold and then left for the day, no one else is going to be able to work with that ticket. We highly caution you if you are going to use the hold. We also have the ability to route. So our patient comes in, we go through our facility screening, they have passed the facility screening and are ready to be immunized. We are going to route them to the screened and checked in. It is now going to show that that patient is in our screened and checked in. If I want to keep working with that same patient, I can't use the Next in Service in this instance because there is someone that has been there longer. So in this case, I'm going to use the call functionality because I want to deal with the same patient. I'm going to left click Call. That's going to assign the ticket to my cases again. Now, if I am the immunizer, I am going to be the one working with this patient. For every patient and every appointment going through the system, we need to document if that person was immunized or not. To do this, we're going to click on the plus sign beside Document and Classify to expand the section, and scroll down till you are in the Classification section. There are 3 options the immunizer can pick. They can pick immunized, not immunized, did not pass vaccine screening, and not immunized, did not provide consent. In this case, I'm going to say that the patient did pass vaccine screening. They did provide consent, so we have immunized them. Check off the checkbox beside immunized. And you'll notice it adds that code automatically. Above that, we have interactions notes. If there was anything of note during the immunization, you can add those notes into the immunization text box. Click Save in the bottom right-hand corner if you've added any notes. Since this patient has been immunized, we are going to scroll to the very top and we are going to route them to the Clear to Go and Checkout service, where they will remain for their 15 minutes. Again, in this case, we're going to work with that same ticket. So I'm going to find the ticket that I was working on, and I'm going to call it. So that once again, I have that ticket assigned in my cases. Once the patient has waited their 15 minutes, they are free to leave. If my clinic is monitoring the Clear to Go and Check Out, we can verify how long they've waited in that queue. In the information below, expand steps history by clicking on the plus sign. And in the information, you can see when they were transferred to the Clear to Go and Check Out. If you want to verify that the immunization documentation was completed, you can expand the Interactions History section. And you'll see the classification code has been saved in the Interactions History. If the patient is done now at the clinic, we can just click on Close. We have just walked a patient through the clinic. Let's look at some exceptions that you'll run across. I'm going to go ahead and find my next appointment. Once again, we are going to NQ them to mark them as arrived. I'm going to left click and call. The patient comes up. We are going through the facility screening with them to find out they do not pass facility screening for one of the reasons. That means they are not qualified to get the vaccine today. They will need to reschedule. We do, again, need to document every appointment going through our system. So we're going to go to the Document and Classify and click on the plus sign to expand that. We are going to scroll down into the Classification section and check off Not Immunized, did not pass facility screening. Once complete, you can scroll to the top. There is no point routing this patient to another service as they will not be getting immunized today. They are done at the clinic. We can use Close. Our next patient has arrived. Go ahead and NQ them. assign that case to ourselves. Again, you can use Next in Service, or you can use the Call button. We proceed through the facility screening with the patient. They pass facility screening. We're going to move them on to the screened and checked in so that they can be immunized. The immunizer would call the patient. Again, I'm going to work with the same patient, so this time I'm going to use the call and not the Next in Service. I'm going to go through the vaccination screening with them, and I'm going to get their consent. This patient, however, has a change of mind and they decide not to provide consent. They do not want to receive the vaccine today. So I'm going to document this as not immunized, did not provide consent. I'm going to scroll to the top again. There is no point routing this patient to the clear to go and check out because they do not need to wait the 15 minutes. They are done at the clinic. We can use close. If you need to verify information from a patient's appointment, if we change our filter to the Serve by Me, you'll be able to see any ticket that you have managed today. From the patient information, you can see our completeds now have a green happy face. Green would indicate that they are completed. If you see a completed in the calendar, that would indicate that that patient did not pass facility screening. If you have closed a ticket in error, you can, on the right-hand side, click on the View, and at the top of View is a Revive. You can revive the ticket if you have closed it in error. If you just want to confirm the information for the documentation, go to the bottom of the information for the appointment and expand the interactions history. You can see we do have this one documented as not immunized, did not pass facility screening. I can close this tab and it will bring me back to my case list. The reason it's important that we mark visits as absent if the patient never came to clinic that day is so that we have accurate records for one, but also because the patient needs the ability to go back online and book another appointment. The QFlow system will appear as if they did attend a first visit if we don't mark this as absent. I'm going to go back to my waiting and expected. We do not want to leave appointments in any of the other services. They can be left in the clear to go and check out. At midnight of the current day, those appointments will fall off the system. You do not have to manually close each one. However, you do need to make sure that all the other services have been cleared out prior to that, or it will not happen. So if you have appointments from people that did not show up for their appointment today, we need to mark them as absent. To do this, go ahead and NQ them. Then you want to assign the ticket to yourself. Then at the top, you're going to want to click on the absent. Now, if we change our filter to absent, you can see the tickets that were marked absent today. which then would not let them book their first visit.